And what that leads to, and this is very, very important for being successful, is modeling knowledge. What you have to do is you go through this, you want to model people who are being successful in what you're doing. You don't want to model people who've not been successful. And believe me, the people who are not successful, they will surround you and try and convince you that what they're doing is right because they want to keep you where they're at. You have to seek out truly the people who are having successful. I call it the laws of association. It's very, very important. You are the combined average of the 5 people you associate with the most. You cannot have positive philosophies if everybody you're hanging around with has negative philosophies. You can't have positive attitudes if the people you associate with have negative attitudes. You can't be on a positive slide edge direction if everybody around you is on a negative slide edge direction. So, you're going through your learned knowledge, your activity knowledge, but you need to be modeling people who are positive. You need to be modeling people who have been successful. So the third one is modeling knowledge. And it leads to the fourth one. If you're ever really going to be successful in life, it's going to be your ability to inspire other people. Those are the people who really make it big in life. They inspire other people. And I've always had a saying, the definition of a leader is the ability to get somebody to do something they wouldn't have done if you had not been there. It's not to be a cheerleader. It's to inspire somebody to do something they would not have done if you had not been there. And that leads to the fourth aspect of knowledge, and that is teaching knowledge. Now, here's the problem. Everyone wants to go from learned knowledge to become the teacher. I'll study it and then I want to go out and tell everybody what to do. Well, they don't want to do the activity themselves. What you have to do is you have to learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge until you are worthy of being modeled. That's the key word there. Until you're worthy of being modeled. Once you're worthy of being modeled yourself, when people are modeling off of you, you become the teacher. You can't just go from learned knowledge to teaching. You're not worthy of it at that time. And so learn knowledge, number one, tied into activity. They work hand in hand with each other. You do those over and over until you become worthy of being modeled. As soon as you become worthy of being modeled, you become the teacher, and that's when everything will explode for you. So what I like to do now is kind of try and bring it all together. How do you take having access to information, using information technology, being in the right environment associations, like I was talking about modeling, having the processor to take that information and increase your knowledge and make good decisions, okay? So I want to talk kind of a broad base about the slide edge before you get into the reading of the slide edge. Again, as I said earlier, it's interesting. You take 2 similar people, have them doing the exact same actions, and one person has success and the other one doesn't. And I want to talk about that because here's what I found. There's some differences between those 2 people. And one of the biggest ones is people who end up being successful, they take responsibility for their actions. They take full responsibility. Even sometimes when it doesn't seem fair, when it seems like somebody's done something wrong to you, they take responsibility for whatever that is. Because understand this, anytime you start to blame, and that's what the other people do, they blame, as soon as you blame, you give up control. Do you understand that? Even when you probably are right in blaming somebody else, you give up control because you give the power to that person. What successful people do is they take responsibility for the decisions they make. They take a responsibility how those decisions affect themselves. What unsuccessful people do is they're constantly blaming somebody else. They're constantly saying it's not my fault. They're constantly living in a state of neglect. They're not doing what you have to do to be successful. Here's another interesting thing. You take those 2 people going through life with the one person who ends up being successful, following the slide edge, he will live probably an uncomfortable life at first because he's making decisions that are uncomfortable compared to what everybody else is doing. But the person who lives uncomfortable first, later in life becomes comfortable. But on the other side, that person who lives in blame and neglect, who kind of conforms to society, they're comfortable because they're doing what everybody else does. But eventually, later in life, they become uncomfortable. What you'll see is successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. What successful people do is they live out of their comfort zone. And what successful people do is they live where the opportunity is at. And that's really what the slide edge is all about. It's about, making those right decisions. Successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Slide edge is about getting out of your comfort zone, making decisions that take you in the right direction versus the decisions that everybody else makes, the ones that society kind of pushes on us that takes you in the wrong direction. And the slide edge is all about living where the opportunity is at. The opportunity is created in the moment of decision. Through the day, you're going to make decisions, hundreds and not thousands of decisions. And you're going to make a decision that's going to make a difference going forward positively or going negatively. And these decisions compounded over time make a difference. But every one of these decisions really doesn't matter in the moment. And I'll give you some examples. Let's just take diet or health. I'm a health fanatic. Anybody around me knows that. I don't understand why you would not care about your health, because if you don't have health, you can't enjoy everything else in life. And so it seems to me it matters what you eat. It seems to me it matters that you exercise. It seems to me it should matter about your health. The sad thing is most of us really don't. I referenced it earlier. Type 2 diabetes is exploding. Obesity has exploded fourfold over the last 20 years. It's really amazing to me that those things could happen when there's more information today about health than there's ever been. There's more access to the information just on the internet than there's ever been. There's more infomercials on health than there's ever been. There's more products on health than there's ever been. But at the exact same time, we're going the wrong direction. And so let me give you an example how the slide edge works when we talk about health. Even though there's more information than there's ever been, more access to information than there's ever been, why are people not becoming more healthy in our society? Think about this. You take two people. One person's on the positive side of slide edge. The other person's making the bad decisions on the negative side of the slide edge. The person, number one, they make a decision to eat a good food. We all know what good food is. It's good vegetables. It's quality proteins. It's quality carbs. It's quality fiber. It's quality food. Okay, they make a decision to say eat a salad with a quality piece of protein in it. The other person make a decision to eat a pizza at that time. Now, is there really any difference between the two of them in that moment in time? The person that eats the salad, do they become just healthy at that moment? No. So the person that eats the pizza, do they just immediately become fat or become unhealthy in that moment? No. What happens is there's no difference between those two in that moment. And that is really the thing that fools most people, because they think it doesn't matter. That bad decision I just made doesn't matter. But guess what? You dig your grave with your teeth. Those simple errors in judgment that you make over time, compounded over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you literally dig your grave with your teeth. On the other side, that same person who's making that simple positive decision, making a decision to eat good food when other people are eating bad food, and the fact is today, more people eat bad food than they ever have with fast food and processed food. One person ends up having a healthy life, the other person ends up having a very unhealthy life. It's a slide edge decision. It makes no difference in the act of doing it at that moment, but successful people, again, they understand those little decisions they make matter. They make the simple decisions over and over and over and over until the compounded effect kicks in and takes them to success. Unsuccessful people make the simple error judgments over time. I came with a statement a long time ago called master the mundane. What I found successful people, what they do is they master the mundane decisions. Decisions don't seem to matter at the moment making them. Take person number one again. They make a decision to go out and walk for 30 minutes. Now, again, pretty much anybody can do that. That's easy to do. But it's also easy not to. It's easy to come up with all the reasons you don't walk 30 minutes a day, but everybody can do it. It's easy to do. It's easy not to. Now, one person walks for 30 minutes in one day. Are they healthy that day? No, they're not. The other person doesn't walk. Are they unhealthy that day? No, they're not. But that simple error of judgment compounded over time will make them unhealthy versus that simple discipline over time will make them healthy. Think about, learn knowledge, get information in your head. What I'm talking about, say just reading. When I say read, I don't mean you have to go in the library and read every single positive book there is there. Matter of fact, that'd be impossible to do. I'm talking about a simple slide edge decision. Let me give you a great example. Reading 10 pages of a good book a day. Is that easy to do? That's easy to do. Anybody can do it. If you can't read, there's somebody that loves you enough to read to you. But it's easy not to do. And here's the thing. When you don't read your 10 pages of that book that day, does that change you that day? No. When you read 10 pages of a good book that day, does it make you successful? No. But that simple discipline, that simple slide edge decision, using that process or that simple decision to read 10 pages of a good book a day, guess what happens? Over a year, 365 days, that's 3,650 pages. Depending on the book, that's about 15 to 20 books. I can take anybody and massively shift their philosophy and their attitude, which will affect their actions with 15 books. It's as simple as 10 pages a day, something that anybody can do. But when you do it that first day, it doesn't change you that day. But when you make that simple discipline over time, that simple slide edge decision over time, the compounded effect eventually kicks in. On the other side, when you don't read 10 pages of a good book one day, does it really affect you that day? No, it doesn't. You're not unsuccessful. But that simple error judgment over time, compounding itself, and all of a sudden you're not successful. So 10 pages of a good book a day, anybody can do that. I'm talking about a good book, not a negative book. I'm talking about books that can affect your philosophy, which in turn affects your attitudes, which in turn affects your actions, which in turn affects your results, which creates you a good lifestyle. A simple slide edge thing. is what you read. Think about tapes. I ask everybody to listen to 15 minutes of a good tape a day. 15 minutes. I'm talking about turning your car into a drive time university. Anybody can do. That's easy to do. It's easy not to. It's easy to just listen to the radio and listen to all the merchandising and marketing and actually, all the thing, pretty much of it negative that's been driven into your brain, or you can make a decision to listen to 15 minutes of good tape a day. When you listen to that tape for 15 minutes that day, does it change you that day? Not much. It might a little bit. If you don't listen, do you become a failure that day? No. But think about 15 minutes of a good tape a day over 365 days in a year, what that would do to you. It would have a massive, massive impact on your philosophies, which in turn would have a huge impact on your attitude. And now all of a sudden those actions that weren't working will start working. All of a sudden the things on your finances that weren't working will work. The things on your diet that weren't working will work. The things that were not working will work. The actions that you've been out there trying to make happen that weren't working will work because you have shifted your philosophy and your attitude. So those are slide edge decisions. The activities every day that you do matter. Activities as simple as who you associate with. You can get around a negative person. You don't think that affects you, but that simple error judgment over time, compounded, is very, very devastating to you. Again, I talked about laws of association. You hang around a positive person one day. Does that really affect you that much? A little bit. You're around a negative person one day. Does it really, wreck your life? Not much. But that simple error in judgment versus that simple discipline over time has a huge, huge impact in your life. And so what people understand, the slide edge is always working. Every decision you make is a slide edge decision. It's going to be a decision that over time compounded is going to take you to the top, or it's going to be a decision over time compounded is going to take you to the bottom. Every one of those decisions, and the moment you make them, in the moment of that decision, don't really matter that much, but the compounded effect of them over time makes all the difference. That's what the slide edge is all about, realizing that every decision you make is a slide edge decision. There's no such thing as a non-slide edge decision. Every decision you make, every single one you make every single day is either leading you positively or negatively. And don't think they don't matter. They do matter. And everything you do to be successful is easy to do and easy not to do. And there is no such thing as quantum leaps to the top. What successful people do is they do the little things that seem to make no difference at all in the act of doing them, and just do them over and over and over and over and over with persistency and consistency over a long enough period of time so the compound effect can kick in and take success. Whereas the people on the other side, they think the things just don't matter. They make those simple errors in judgment. They say it doesn't matter today. I didn't get unhealthy because I didn't walk today, so it doesn't matter. I didn't fail because I didn't read 10 pages of a good book today, so it doesn't matter. Those simple error judgments do matter. What successful people do is they understand the power of the slide edge and how it's working in every decision you make. Unsuccessful people, what they do is they don't realize that every decision they make does make a difference, and they understand that those negative decisions over time can compound and take you in the wrong direction. So again, as I've said before, what the slide edge is a philosophy. It's a way of approaching information. It's a way of changing your knowledge. It's a way of changing the decisions you make every single day. To me, thoughts are things. And that means your thoughts have to be developed. What you have to do is you have to develop that slide edge processor. It might not work perfectly at first, but over time you'll get to understand it. You'll get to see how it's working in your life. But here's something that's very, very important. You do not want to neglect the slide edge, because if you do, you eventually will fail. And here's one thing I've found. People who embrace the slide edge, who really follow it, it will have a huge impact on their life in their first year, but it have a massive impact on their life over the next 5 years. And beyond that, the difference, you can't even measure it. But here's the other side of that coin. People who don't understand this, do you realize it takes the rest of your life to fail? I really want you to listen to those words. It takes finding something you really want to do, applying the proper philosophies and attitudes through the slide edge, doing it consistently over a long enough period of time. That's what it takes to be successful. But if you don't do that, if you don't find something you want to do, if you don't apply the proper philosophies and attitudes which create the right actions, if you don't understand the slide edge and you don't do that, it takes the rest of your life to fail. So what I'd rather do is embrace a philosophy, embrace information, embrace knowledge in a way that I know can work for me, because I know it's easy to do, again, but it's easy not to do. But if I find it and I apply myself consistently, remember, 10 pages of a good book a day, over a long enough period of time, I can be successful. But if I don't do that, it takes the rest of my life to fail. Again, remember, Every day, you're making hundreds, if not thousands of decisions. Greatness is made in the moment of that decision.